Thank you very much for the time. And we're going to spend maybe about no more than 15, 20 minutes just highlighting some of the best strategies that you can go after and try to protect your communities. The most important thing is to make sure that you absolutely do everything you can to slow down or stop the building of the 4G, 5G grid. This will lead to social credit scores and lockdown of the population. It's all part of the big agenda. And if you are successful at stopping and slowing this, you will have many more freedoms down the line. Now, this is harder in the states with the ALEC state bill. It is all right. There are still some things you can do there. It's easier if you don't have a bad ALEC state bill, which is why we fought them so hard in California. I've been on this task now for 5 to 7 years. I started back trying to get wireless out of my schools for my daughter in 2013. And we did an OSHA complaint against that school. And if we have time, we'll go visit what the outcome of that was. But essentially, it came to the realization right there by my OSHA complaint that I got the FCC and the Federal OSHA Office of Engineering and Technology to admit to me that in order to answer a very basic question, we do not even have the correct unit to answer the question. Basic question. How much radiation is my 6-year-old daughter going to receive in a classroom in a 6-hour school day? Oh, well, we want to dismiss your claim, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm one of these intellectually honest people. We have to answer that question first before we can get to dismissal. So we went through a whole process to determine that it can't be done on watts per square meter. It's nonsense. That is only a rate of exposure. You have to look at the total exposure over time. And we did. We calculated it all out, and it's astronomically high. And the whole point is, once you realize that you have to get out of the box that has been built for all of us by the wireless industry, then you can start making some progress. But if you continue to argue inside the box that they define, they've got you on their playing field. They already know how to defeat you. They know pretty much everything they need to do to basically not have to deal with you, push you to the side, and continue on. You need to get outside of that box. You got to think in different ways, and then you have to come at them in ways they're not expecting. And this is what we're doing in these different communities. So I'm going to share with you is effective advocacy in California, Idaho, Arizona, and New Hampshire, because I'm working with a lot of very good people here who are thinking outside the box. They include Trevor Marshall, PhD. This guy's the smartest guy I know. He designs antennas. He's an IEEE fellow, and he also has a PhD in biological sciences and has done research into the electromagnetic radiation effects on health. He's got both sides of the equation. He is smarter than anybody else I know here on this topic. And I've been working very carefully with him for 4 years. Kent Chamberlain is a new guy on the block. He's done a really good job with the New Hampshire Commission, and he's open-minded enough to take in some of the stuff that we're sharing with him so he can also step outside of the box. When you take a look at the New Hampshire report, it's solidly in the box. They're only talking about one of the important parameters. You need to get out of that and talk about more than that. Hey, there's a great New Hampshire state senator, Denise Ricciardi. She wiggled her way onto the campaign. How did she get to be a state senator? She fought cell towers locally first. Good for her. So we're equipping her. Russ Whitty, PhD in Arizona. That's why we're making so much progress in Tucson right now. And two very smart attorneys, Harry Lehman, who's out here in Northern California, and Gary Widman, who's got the CV a mile long. But he worked under Presidents Ford, Carter, and Nixon. He was there while they were making NEPA. And so he is the guy who I really depend on a lot. And these are very expert, high-level people that are helping to craft some of these strategies. It's not your average thing that I'm sharing with you today. This is playing 3D chess at a high level. So I'm doing the best I can to boil it down to something small. But I mean, at the end of the day, you do have to get to this level to start making some progress, okay? So let me just go through a couple of slides, and then I'll go through a couple of web pages, and then I'll answer any questions you might have, all right? This is what we're fighting. You've seen them all over the place, okay? They call them small, but they're not really small, because the inverse square law means as they get closer, they get much, 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 much more powerful. So your small cell is actually much more dangerous than a macro tower. Even though it puts out less power, the fact that it's closer more than overcomes that by many orders of magnitude. So this is the most dangerous thing you have in your neighborhood right now. You want to get them out of your neighborhoods any way you possibly can. You're going to fight any way you can. And I'll show you how you can do it. Okay. Whoops. I don't know why I'm not going forward. There we go. Look, this is the one that is the great data. This data is everywhere. This data is in the FCC's public record. It's actually in state legislature public record, and you can actually use this. All right. There was a professional measurement done in that second story window in that house, and that was done by Eric Windheim. And he didn't do what the FCC said. He said, the FCC says, oh, go out there and wave your antenna around for 30 minutes. No, he was smart. He put his meter there for 36 hours and he logged the whole thing. And what happens when you log something for 36 hours? You actually see a peak. You see, these things are hugely high peaks of power coming at you, and then they're off. And then they come back and they're off, and they come back and they're off. So the FCC is only looking at averages, which means it completely misses this. And it's very hard to see a peak. You see, people think you read these meters around, you see a number, you think you know what you're doing. In reality, you're measuring the upslope or the downslope of the peak. You almost never get to the peak. So to do a proper analysis, to actually get to answers, you have to go outside the rules written for you. You have to think harder about it. And he did. And good for him, because he now has data that we've got everywhere that's proving that stuff that is well below the guideline is actually damaging people. And we have this in the record. These people, these two little girls in that room got sick immediately. And the interesting part about this tower, folks, is they were fighting hard to get this off. Verizon came in and measured it, and they said they were going to do something, then they stonewalled them. Well, we had the great lawsuit on August 13th of 2021. That's the CHD-EHT case. That is one where the wireless world changed that day, because that order was remanded. There is no guideline above 6,000 megahertz. That's a very important point for everybody to take home. You can use that to your advantage now. And they have to do environmental review for small cells. That was told to them twice, once in 2019, once in 2021. So the key thing here is on August 13th, 2021, what else happened? Verizon turned off this tower. They finally powered it off. They didn't tell anybody. We just found out by measuring it. That's their admission that there's a problem. And why did they turn it off? They turned it off because all that's evidence is in the lawsuit that was actually filed and ruled upon. And they know they're in big trouble. The one in the middle, San Francisco, that's 12 feet away from that window. That woman had a bloody mass in her brain within 3 months. She had to have it removed surgically, and she had to move out of there. The one on the right, that one, they cut down that person's property value by 23%. She couldn't sell the house for 5 months in the hottest real estate market going. This is before COVID, and this was after the Santa Rosa fires. These are real harms from small cells in the public record of state of California and the FCC. Because they're there, you get to link to them and use them. That's the whole point. Use all the best evidence you can with all of your letters of complaints to your local city councils, okay? I don't know why I don't go forward. Let's see here. There we go. All right, what do you want to add to any town's WTF code? Now, look, this is for the states without the bad Alex state bills, okay? But these, again, are thinking outside the box, all right? You're going to have to actually deal with more than one variable. Everyone keeps talking just about horizontal offset. That's not enough. Vertical offset counts and power output counts. If you don't ever get to power, you're never going to make progress. You're going to have to start talking about power output. And you're going to have to talk about capping power output, because if you don't, we're toast. That's really the bottom line. And sure, it would be great if you never had any of it. And it'd be great if we recognize that even low power is a problem. We all know that. But at the end of the day, you're better off with much, 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 much lower power than you are with the high power that they're allowed to have right now. So what can you do? You can limit the carrier-specific signal strengths. There it is, right there. Don't talk about microwatts per square meter anymore. Talk about decibel milliwatt. That's how they measure signal strength. If you can drop something that says no higher than minus 80 dBm in your local code, Now you got something. Now you've got a way to regulate that power. And it's really important to do that. All right. You can also require a significant gap test. And you can do that either by doing drive tests, which are generally a little more onerous and expensive, or the easy one right here, require 12 months of dropped call records from the application's search ring, because there are none. There are no dropped calls. And all you want to do is look at the percentage of completed calls and the percentage of not completed calls to see if there is a significant percentage of them. And if there's not, there's no need for the tower. And you can safely use that as what Andrew Campanelli calls probative evidence and just say no to the tower, and you'll never lose in court. So if that's a requirement of your local code, boom, simple, easy, cheap, done. That's one to go for. Here's the other key thing a lot of people miss. The wires industry gets in there and they say, oh, they spin these arguments about, well, everybody needs in-building coverage. We actually all have to call in-building. Well, you know what? They don't. It's not in the laws. And so all you have to do is bring up the fact that there's Wi-Fi calling on these phones. So if you just get a wired connection to your house and you run a Wi-Fi router, you can make a wireless phone call inside your house. That's all you need. You don't need power from a tower to make a call. All you need is an internet connection in your house. So there is no basis for them to establish in-building coverage. Sure, they want it. Sure, it makes their business better. Sure, it makes it convenient, but they have no law or preemption to get it. And so if your town doesn't want to do it, that's a great way to go do it. All right. All right, I think you all know how antennas work, so we don't have to go over all this pretty much, but essentially it's trying to go out to the horizon, but in reality it points down. And so at some point it's going to hit either the ground or maybe here in the second story window. It's not totally clean, right? You got all these little spikes going up and down. So if you're on the sidewalk, you get hit with a big part of it. And if you unfortunately live in a house right there, you're getting screwed totally. And so the point is, honestly, if you're out here, you're probably getting good service and you're not having any problems at all. And it's not even a problem from a health standpoint. If you're in here, you are totally screwed. This is why these could never come into neighborhoods. This was always a bad idea. It's just they don't give a damn about you, and they don't care if you get sick, and they don't care if you die. All they want to do is make money all along the way, and they want to lock you down in the process. This is why you got to fight these. This is the most dangerous thing you have in your neighborhood right here. And maybe it doesn't look that bad, but it's the worst thing I've seen. It's much worse than Wi-Fi in schools. It's not even close. Okay. This is the number one priority. This is the thing that we have to defeat. Okay. What's the biggest problem? I've already told you, thinking inside the box. We've had think tanks that are actually just educating everybody through our PhD programs for decades. And essentially they've already got them all leaning the right way. Oh, I read and learn the FCC rules. Great. Now I'm an expert. Now I'll go out and follow those rules. Well, those rules are completely designed to keep you in the box. The big problem with the rules, however, if you read them carefully, is they're not well written. And you'll see that they're inconsistent all over the place. And there's a chance for you to make some progress out of those rules. Okay. These are the real legislative purposes of these acts, to promote the safety of life and property. That's a big deal. That is the purpose of the FCC as well. So whenever you go back to the purposes of things, you'll find the same kinds of purposes in your general plans. You just tie all the purposes together to then show them how this kind of agenda is not working that way. Okay. Few people realize that every town in a state bill, in a state without a state telecom law, can regulate the operations of cell towers. It was never preempted from local zoning authority. All right. Because it's already stated that way in the conference report and in the way the law was written. And your city councils have the duty to provide public safety. So the point is that they've all been talked into the fact that they can't deal with health effects. Even though that's not true, if you try to mount that argument, they are not listening to you. They've already been indoctrinated into the box. So what you do is you wrap health effects into a larger category. The larger category is public safety. They know they have to deal with public safety. Public safety is big. It's not just maybe your health. It's zoning laws. It's nuisance. It's everything that the city stands for. They have to deliver public safety. They know it, and your city attorney knows it. So when you start talking about public safety, you start making progress. All right. Hey, people can really use this. Okay. It was never the intent to put 50-foot towers in residential districts. That's stated right in federal law. I can't believe this is not quoted by everybody and everything they do, because it's right there. And this is anointed by the US Supreme Court in 2005 as federal law, the absolute intent of the 1996 Act. And they are saying, hey, if somebody puts it in a commercial district, we don't have to turn around and put a 50-foot tower in a residential district. And it's also not the intent to allow shot clocks. That's in the law. So if you have an FCC regulation that's pushing shot clocks down your throat, but it's not consistent with the law, well, it's a simple trip to court to get that taken care of. And this is what people aren't doing. It's just a simple, easy thing to do, okay? The important thing to know is that the small cell agenda is crumbling. And so you can see it in the number of losses here, okay? Keto case 2019, Mozilla 2019. The irregulars got even though they lost that case, they got a good clarification. And then we had this local government case, which, the wireless industry will say that these are no big deal. And, oh, yeah, it's not a problem for us. We continue on. In reality, they've lost their definition of a small cell. The FCC admits it. They have to treat every cell tower equally now. Small cell gets no extra benefits. But, they just keep moving on because people aren't doing their homework. And the big one was August 13th of 2021. That changed the wireless world. And you have to put a stake in the ground to know that. All right. So Andrew Campanelli is the best guy. And he just pretty much says this, look, I had a federal judge tell me it's not up to the FCC to put words in the Telecommunications Act that aren't there. Cool. That's great. 18-133 is nothing. It's fiction. It is not federal law. It is a series of preferences, because your local judges are bound by your federal court decisions, not what the FCC says. The FCC has no jurisdiction over your local rights of way. None, zero. All right. And they admit this if you read it carefully, but everybody's just pounding the dream for propaganda. All right. This is the final thing I'll show you here. I'll get out of slides. This is a comment made by Garnet Haley. Who is she? The division chief of the Competition Infrastructure Policy Division for the FCC. I talk to her about once every 6 months. She said exactly this. The FCC, when it modified its rules from the Keto case, we took the position we're reviewing small wires facilities as undertakings and major federal actions pursuant to the DC Circuit decision, and that is what we've been doing. Boom. That's their admission right there. Small cells aren't real. There's like every other cell tower. That's how we have to treat it. That's why every single small cell must undergo NEPA review. The only ones that didn't were from a period of July of 2018 to August 9th of 2019. That was the only time that there was an exemption from going through NEPA review. Every other one must go through NEPA review. Can you, as your own individual person, force that to happen? Yes, you can. You make the complaint, you can force it to happen. Do it. I mean, we brought this to Doug Wood in 2019. He put it out on a Take Action Tuesday on a Tuesday. And on Thursday, he sent another one saying, oh, there's no basis for this. And I go, what are you doing? I talked to the FCC. This is exactly right. He would never fix it. He would never go back. I don't know why he went off this, but this is winning. This stopped 3 towers in Sonoma, stopped a big tower down in Thousand Oaks, it's stopping towers all over the country. This is working. So, a lot of the people out there who are basically saying, oh, I've got a big website and a lot of following, and, here's my model code and, follow me. Listen, be careful. There aren't many experts out there. Understand that there are real things you can use, but you can't just copy and paste off of people's websites. There's a lot of stuff on Doug Wood's websites which are wrong. It's hard to figure out which ones are wrong. So you can't just quickly copy paste. That's the problem. All right, so I won't go through any more of the laws. Let me get out of this and go into a web page here. Because what you should see is how people are fighting. And how are they fighting? They're fighting as of yesterday, okay? That's the important thing. So why? Because we've trained a team in Tucson, and they're kicking butt down in Tucson. They got a bad state bill, and they're making progress. How are they doing it? They're writing real letters, and it's got real teeth, and it's going right into exactly who they have to talk to. And it goes to all the city council members, and it goes all to the planning commissioners, and to all of the county people if it's a county issue. And they're arguing nuisances. That's exactly what you want to argue. There is a whole thing of nuisance laws that you can actually go after. And they're making very good claims. I'm not going to go every word here, but there are two very strong letters that went in yesterday for 2 small cells. And we're forcing them to actually do it. And one of the things that we're bringing up in the second letter is very important, that you have to understand that SAR, specific absorption rate, is the basis for the FCC RF guideline. All microwatts per square meter, all that stuff derives from SAR. It's just a mathematical transformation of it. So if you only have SAR up to 6,000 megahertz, which was the case before the FCC put out an order in December 2019, then that's all you can operate. And then they just had that thing remanded. So we're right back there. So today, there is no guideline for frequencies above 6,000 megahertz. Take advantage of it. Make a demand, shut down every single one that's above 6,000 megahertz right now, power them off, because your city has no basis for an operational permit, because there is no federal guideline for that. So the point is 11,000 pages that the FCC, that the CHD put into the FCC's record is very easy to find. In fact, I found it on the website up at Children's Health Defense Fund. I put it on the front page of Wire America. And essentially right here is a description. I'm going to finish descriptions today. Copy paste this little list and drop it in as evidence to anything you say to your city. And you include this by reference into your own public record. And that says they are liable for reading and understanding this information when they make a decision about your small cell. My biggest, strongest recommendation to everyone here is to stack your public record with the strongest evidence there ever was. And don't sit down and say, oh, well, I have to read the study to figure out which one is better. No, the people did the work for us right here. Copy, scrape it, paste this. This is valuable. And put this in your local public record and do it all by reference. And that's the easiest, simplest thing to do to start getting evidence that they have to consider when they make your decisions. Really, really important. Okay. So on this page is the October 27th, I went on YouTube and I did about an hour here. So a lot of other foundational things I'm not saying is in this video right here. So I'd strongly recommend you watch this video as well as the one from Dalton Gardens, because that's a place, Dalton Gardens, Idaho, that's a place where we talked them out of a stupid city-sponsored ordinance, and they went right away from it. They went completely with the residents. They went ahead and hired Andrew Campanelli, and they're getting a protective ordinance. So it was an effective 20-minute presentation to get them to do that. These are the kinds of victories that are going to help to save your community. Look, we also got 2 vetoes of the state bill. I mean, that's its history now, so we don't have to talk a lot about it, but thank God we did. And look, we had to do it despite the efforts of a lot of people, okay? There were a lot of people going in there trying to basically just argue the same in-the-box arguments. And I'm going to strongly suggest that you get out of that box and you start thinking about it in terms of other ways. 3 very important variables: vertical, horizontal, and power output. And when you do, I'll go over and show you how to use it right here. I'm going to go to how we use it in Petaluma. We just defeated another tower last week. I mean, I got about 20 of these done now. And so in Petaluma, right here in St. Vincent, boom. We just got this guy, the principal, to say, no, he's pulled his application. We convinced him. And how do we do it? We just said, hey, look, this is the antenna they're going to put up there. Look at the number of ports on it. And go through a simple calculation to show them what the capability of the antenna is. And what is it? This one is 6,000 watts, right in the middle of a high school. Is that a good idea for your students that you care about? Do you want to do that? Well, he decided he didn't want to do it. Well, this is actual evidence that you can actually use these calculations, which makes it hard for the wires company to overcome. They're going to sit down and say, oh, well, we're not going to run it that full out. We're going to run it at a fraction of that. Trust us, trust us, trust us. But guess what? This is what they could run it at. And that's what matters. And so they should actually be forced to bring back a much less powerful antenna. All right. Let's go to the other tower we defeated in Petaluma. This one took a lot of effort, but we got it done. This one was right here. 4 radomes. Inside each of the 4 radomes on this building, which was right in the middle of a residential area, was 4 antennas apiece, 16 antennas. Look at this power, 2.4 million watts, right in the middle of the neighborhood. It was a freaking disaster. We fought them for a good 7 months, and we actually got Verizon to walk away. They willingly pulled the application because we put so much evidence in the record. This is not fun. This is detailed work. This is not kumbaya, hold your hands and support all each other and smile all day long. This is actually doing high-level work and being very careful with your words and making sure that you stand up and defend your rights. That's how you use this. Right here in the Act. In all circumstances, all radio shall use the minimum amount of power necessary to carry out the communication desired. That's right in the Act. Use it. Define what the minimum power is. Minus 80 dBm. When you do, you get a chance to shrink the size of the antennas. That's the whole point. Get them out of the box of saying, oh, well, it's below the guidelines. So you can convince people. It can be done. So I just want to make sure you understand that there are tools available to you. That's what these websites are all about. I want to make sure that everybody understands that it takes all kinds of people to do this work. We should be accepting of everyone. There should be absolutely no exclusion of anyone at any time. Everybody should be invited at all times to all meetings that they wish to join. Anyone who's actually keeping you out of a meeting, you should look at that person very, very critically and understand what is the agenda behind that. You shouldn't go along for that at all.